We're at step 2 of cutting the handle out to our push stick. As you can see, I've used a hole saw. I've cut those 2 holes which represent the ends of the handle. I've made this line from the tangent of this circle to the tangent of this circle. I'm going to use the jig saw to follow this line and cut out the rest of the handle. So I'm going to put the saw blade right up against the edge of this hole and go to the edge of this hole. I've sanded with the disc and the belt sander the edges, the rough edges that were left by my relief cuts over on the bandsaw as I cut the body out. I also used a metal file, the rasps, to clean out this part, my little intricate sharp corner that I used to cut out on the scroll saw. And I've clamped this to the table. Now, just because I've clamped it doesn't mean that it's going to stay there. It can break loose, so I'm going to have to use 2 hands. I'm going to hold down with pressure here as I saw with the jig saw this line. And if I push down too hard over here, this will easily break loose from the table. Again, just because it's clamped doesn't mean it's going to stay there permanently. One thing I've made sure to do is the feet of the clamp firmly, levelly on top of the push stick, and then I also found the bottom edge of this bracing that makes up the table. And here I have a clamp that basically I've clamped incorrectly. You can see how it is at an angle. I don't have a sturdy position. There's a gap, I don't know if you can see it, underneath this side of the clamp. So I really want to make sure that when I clamp, I find this foot is square with the table, and I'll get a much firmer hold. Right, so that's what I made sure I did when I clamped the push stick to the table. Right, so now it's time to make that cut with the jig saw. I also want to mention, with that drill press, feathering it like I did, using that technique, this is a really smooth hole. I have very little to no sanding to do in there. If you go too fast, you're gonna have tear out, you're gonna have chips away from the top edge, and you're gonna have to do a lot more work. So always go slowly, low rate of speed, under control when you're making your cuts with any of our tools, be it a drill press, drill bit, or a saw blade. I want to make sure that I'm going at a fairly high RPM with this saw. Some people think, well, I'll just pull the trigger a little bit, I'll go slowly. It's actually going to be more difficult if you do. So I'm going to get this thing cranking to a pretty good clip, and it's going to cut like a hot knife through butter. I'll start with the top edge. So I just go ahead and position it against the edge of the hole. Followed my line. You can see that clamp, just because it was there, not permanent. And I'm going to cut the bottom edge too. I'm going to have to go ahead and reclamp. I'll cut the bottom edge. I'll have a little sanding. You see I got off my line just a little bit here. And then we'll go ahead and clean this hole up. Next I'm going to be sanding with the palm sander the top and the bottom edges. I'll get rid of all these ink lines and marks, and then it'll be time to stain. Something else I might consider is using a router and doing a little round over on the edges to clean that up, smooth these out a little bit, and make them just a little nicer, a little prettier.